The letter arrived wrapped in dust and hope, carried by a rider who didn't ask questions and didn't linger. In the small frontier town of Red Willow, where the wind cut sharper than words and grief had long outnumbered joy, Caleb Holt unfolded the paper with hands roughened by ranch work and loneliness. He had lost his wife 3 winters ago, buried her beneath a cottonwood tree, and since then the house had been quieter than a grave. The letter was short, polite, almost painfully formal. "My name is Eleanor Whitmore. I have agreed to come west as your wife. No love promises, no flowery lies, just agreement." And somehow that honesty felt heavier than romance. When Eleanor arrived days later, stepping down from the stagecoach in a simple gray dress, eyes steady and posture composed, the town noticed immediately. She didn't look desperate like most mail-order brides. She looked observant, calculating, the women whispered. The men stared. Caleb felt something unfamiliar tighten in his chest, not desire, but curiosity. Eleanor spoke softly, asked few questions, and when Caleb offered his arm, she accepted with a nod instead of a smile. That night, as they sat across from each other in the lamp-lit kitchen, she admitted she had lived in cities back east, that she valued privacy, and that she expected respect more than affection. Caleb agreed without hesitation. He was not looking for a replacement for his lost wife, only a partner to help him survive the silence. Days passed. Eleanor learned the routines quickly, rose early, worked hard, but there were things that didn't add up. She boiled water obsessively, cleaned wounds with precision when ranch hands got hurt, and spoke with a vocabulary far beyond a schoolteacher's. Once, when a child collapsed in the street from fever, Eleanor knelt without hesitation, checked breathing, pulse, pupils, then stopped herself, stood too fast and said nothing. Caleb saw it, filed it away. The town doctor, old Dr. Fenwick, laughed it off when Eleanor suggested quarantining a coughing family. "Just a bad flu," he said. But then people started dying. First a minor, then a child, then 2 women within the same week. Red Willow panicked. Coffins lined the churchyard. Dr. Fenwick collapsed during a house call and never woke up. Fear spread faster than the sickness. And in the chaos, Eleanor locked herself in the bedroom at night, hands shaking, face pale, not from fear of death, but from the weight of a truth she was running from. Caleb finally confronted her. She tried to deny it, failed, and when she finally spoke, her voice broke like a dam. She wasn't just educated. She wasn't just trained. She was a doctor, a fully licensed physician who had fled east after being barred from practice for being a woman who dared to save lives without permission. She had come west to disappear, to survive, to stop fighting. Caleb stared at her, stunned, not angry, not afraid, but awed. Outside, the town bells rang again. Another death, and Eleanor realized hiding was no longer an option, not when lives were burning away like dry grass in the sun. As she tied her hair back and rolled up her sleeves, she whispered, "They will hate me if I fail." Caleb answered simply, "They'll be dead if you don't try." And as Eleanor stepped into the night, Red Willow's fate unknowingly followed her. If you're hooked already, make sure you subscribe, because what happens next will change this town forever. The epidemic did not slow. It roared. By the time Eleanor took control of the abandoned schoolhouse and turned it into a makeshift infirmary, half the town was coughing blood, and the other half was praying for miracles they no longer believed in. At first, they didn't trust her. A woman doctor? A mail-order bride? Some called her a fraud. Others blamed her for angering God. But desperation has a way of silencing pride. When Eleanor isolated the sick, burned contaminated bedding, forced boiling of water, and introduced hygiene measures the town had never heard of, deaths finally slowed. She worked without rest, hands raw, eyes burning, mind sharper than steel. Caleb stood by her side, protecting her from mobs and doubt alike. One night, when the sickness took a turn for the worse and supplies ran low, Eleanor performed surgery by lantern light, saving a boy everyone else had already given up on. The next morning, the boy woke breathing easier. Word spread like wildfire. The same people who mocked her now begged her for help. Men fell to their knees. Mothers pressed babies into her arms. Eleanor treated them all, without judgment, without pause. But the toll was heavy. She collapsed days later, feverish, infected. The town that once whispered against her gathered outside the infirmary in silence, terrified of losing the woman who had become their last hope. Caleb sat at her bedside, confessing love he had been too afraid to speak, promising her a future beyond survival. Eleanor fought the illness with the same discipline she gave her patients, and she won. When she finally stepped outside, pale but standing, Red Willow erupted in tears and cheers. The town council offered her the doctor's post. The church rang its bells not for death, but for gratitude. Eleanor didn't accept immediately. She looked at Caleb, at the land, at the people she had saved, and finally understood something profound. She had not come west to hide. She had come west to become. She accepted, not as a secret, not as a bride sent by letter, but as a doctor the town would one day tell legends about. And as Caleb took her hand, Red Willow began rebuilding, not just from sickness, but from fear itself. If this story moved you, inspired you, or gave you hope, subscribe to the channel. Because stories like this remind us that courage often arrives disguised as silence, and heroes don't always come wearing badges.